Hello everyone and welcome to NFL discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing part 1 of the divisional round, that being the Saturday games. So the discussion on the divisional round is going to be split into 2 videos. So with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action from Saturday's slate, starting with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, not only is he back, but he is back in MVP form. So the Eagles' bye week seemed to benefit Jalen Hurts, who was battling a shoulder sprain that he suffered late in the season. In week 16 and 17, he would miss those games, but return in the season finale to help the club clinch the #1 seed. In his last 2 regular season appearances, Hurts had struggled as a passer, throwing for a total of 3 interceptions without a touchdown, and according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, Hurts admitted that he'll play hurt. With that said, the Eagles single card looked great in their victory over the Giants. Hurts went 16 of 24, passing for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns with 34 yards and a score on the ground. He had an efficient outing and didn't hesitate to use his legs, which are traits that helped him garner MVP buzz for most of the season before he lost some steam with a shoulder injury. While Hurts' numbers might not look impressive on paper, his dual threat capabilities allowed the Eagles to rip off chunk gains on the ground. They racked up 268 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns against the Giants. His passing efficiency doesn't allow opponents to capitalize off costly mistakes. On Saturday, Hurts fumbled the ball, but didn't turn it over, and connected with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert on some big plays downfield. With his accurate arm and ability to make defenders miss on foot, the Eagles' offense will pose a big problem for the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Giants. So quite the season they had right there, probably above expectations. But with that said, though, there might be an off-season spending spree coming for the Giants. I don't know quite what their cap situation is. If they have some money, they should probably spend it. Giants head coach Ryan Dable deserves credit for what he did with limited talent at various positions on both sides of the ball. In 1 year, he took a 4-13 team, turned them into a 9-7-1 playoff squad. However, when matched up with a team like the Eagles, who have playmakers all over their roster, Big Blue simply didn't stand a chance. First and foremost, the Giants should look at working out deals with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, who carried the Giants offense. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the team brass plans to keep both in 2023 and beyond. It was 1,650 yards and 10 touchdowns of scrimmage. Barkley had his best year since his rookie season. Daniel Jones played effectively late in the season and into the playoffs, throwing for 5 touchdowns and 1 interception between Week 16 and the wild card weekend. In that 3-game stretch, he rested in Week 18. Jones would also rush for 203 yards and 2 scores. As long as Barkley can stay healthy, he's one of the league's best running backs. Jones needs more playmakers to up his volume in passing production. The Giants didn't have a pass catcher of more than 57 receptions, 724 yards, receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. Big Blue should select a wide receiver early in the upcoming draft and consider designating Kenny Golladay a post-June 1 cut to save $13.5 million because, well, he's underperformed on that 4-year, $72 million deal. On the other side of the ball, New York needs some help at linebacker and secondary. They could take a look at the free agent market for some guys like Jamal Dean and Devontae David from the Buccaneers. Those are a couple of free agents available. The Giants have a quality coaching staff, as evident by their OC getting head coaching interviews. And the job Dable's done as head coach, which has helped them get the most out of their current roster. But they are going to need an influx of talent if they want to compete with the top teams across the league, which was evident Saturday night as they got boat raced. Chiefs. So, despite Patrick Mahomes ailing with an ankle injury, they showcased a balanced offense attack. So when an injury occurs, which is something that always happens in football, the coaching staff better have a good backup plan, and the Chiefs showed that they indeed do have a good backup plan, that they are able to survive and win even when Patrick Mahomes isn't close to 100%. For a little more than 3 quarters, Mahomes would play through an ankle injury that forced him out of the game for a short period. During the second quarter, he would head to the locker room. He didn't want to go to the locker room, but he was told to, and returned to the sideline with his ankle heavily wrapped in tape. Meanwhile, backup quarterback Chad Henne would engineer a scoring drive. Had started on Kansas City's 2-yard line. He would also throw his first career touchdown pass in the postseason, which would give the Chiefs the lead. Going into halftime, the Chiefs had the lead, and Mahomes would return in the third quarter, but his ankle changed his style of play. He still led a touchdown drive midway through the final quarter, showing he's capable of delivering pinpoint passes to one leg. The MVP candidate would go 22 of 30 passing for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nonetheless, the Chiefs playing calling changed. Mahomes hurt for most of the game. Kansas City would run the ball 30 times for 144 yards. Isaiah Pacheco would be the one leading the charge on the ground with 95 yards on 12 carries. After the game, Mahomes said X-rays on his ankle were negative. But if he has limited mobility going forward, the Chiefs might have to lean on that ground game a little bit more next week against the Bengals. The Bengals rank within the top 7 in run defense. Head coach Andy Reid and offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy will certainly take Mahomes' health into consideration when they devise game plans in the upcoming week. While the 2-time All-Pro passer can still carve up a defense in the pocket, Kansas City will likely need some more of that offensive balance to keep him out of harm's way. That injury would be reported to be the dreaded high ankle sprain, which credit to Mahomes for gutting it out. But he is going to be up against it to try to play in the championship game, and I know he's going to do everything he can to try to be out there and play, but that is a tough injury to try to come back and play through. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not out there. And to wrap up part 1, we have the Jaguars, who, after a successful season that exceeded expectations, should focus on in-house development to maintain their bright future. So the Jaguars went from worst to first in the AFC South, beating the Titans in Week 18 to win the division, but their season would come to an end after a loss to the Chiefs in the Divisional Round. Ultimately, Jamal Agnew's fumble and Trevor Lawrence's fourth quarter interception would pretty much seal the game for the Jaguars as probably the most improved team over the past couple of seasons. Think about it, this team went from picking back-to-back number 1 overall the past couple of years to now, being in the Divisional Round with a division title. Jacksonville made a big leap after hiring head coach Doug Peterson this past offseason. Jaguars also infused their roster with some talent via free agency and a solid rookie class with some immediate contributors. Last offseason, the Jaguars splurged on the free agent market. Among those signed, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram. Those were their top 3 pass catchers in Jacksonville's 10th-ranked aerial attack. With a quality pass-catching group, Lawrence showed why he generated so much buzz as one of the most highly touted quarterback prospects coming out of college. He threw for 4,113 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions in 2022. Lawrence also had a decent ground game to support him as their offense would rank 14th in rushing. Travis Etienne would take over the backfield for James Robinson, whom the team would later trade to the Jets. Etienne missed his rookie year with a Lisfranc injury, but bounced back in year 2 with 1,441 yards and 5 touchdowns from scrimmage. Lawrence also had an offensive line that was solid for the year and will remain mostly intact, with the possible exception of right tackler Jawan Taylor, who is set to become a free agent. And the offensive line playmakers around him should progress even further going into next season. Remember, the Jaguars acquired Calvin Ridley from the Falcons before the 2022 trade deadline. The NFL had suspended Ridley indefinitely before the season because he bet on pro games. But if he's eligible to return in 2023, Lawrence can target him as his go-to perimeter receiver. Defensively, if edge rusher Trayvon Walker translates more of his pressures into sacks, the 2022 number 1 overall pick can strengthen the Jaguars' 28th ranked pass defense. Jacksonville tied for 25th in sacks this season, and aside from re-signing Evan Ingram, who was on a 1-year contract, the Jaguars don't need to spend a lot of money on free agency this off-season. Rather, they can shift their focus to developing the talent that they have. and the talent they currently have to continue their reign of the AFC South. And with that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.